Good morning, everybody. More queries today. If you want to work along with me as we're doing this, what you should do is in that Lab Demo 3 folder, there's a file called Market3 database. Just copy that over. Just drag and drop it on your desktop. Don't try to open it from my outbox. It's not going to work there. And it's the market database that we've been using all semester, but it also includes some additional files I put in there this morning for my demos. Come on, there we go. All right. So last time we did a lot of selection queries. We wanted these fields and these records from this table and matching this criteria and all that sort of stuff. We're going to do different kinds of queries today. Create query design just like before, and just pick household table, I guess, is a good one to start with. Okay. Up here on the ribbon, there are other kinds of queries. There's a make table, append, update, and a delete. These are called the housekeeping kinds of queries. These are things when you want to do things to clean up the data, make copies of it, add new data, and all that sort of stuff. The make table is the easiest of these to understand. I'm just going to make a simple query here, household ID, state, I don't know, phone number, and can call, I guess. Okay, and we'll pick people from Connecticut, CT. Okay, so this is just sort of the standard kinds of queries that we did last week. And when we run it, we get this temporary table that's open, that exists as long as we look at it, and as soon as we close it, it goes away. Now, there will be times when we want to save this, make a permanent copy of it, and that's easy enough to do. You can just go back into Design View and just click on Make Table, and then you just give up whatever name you want for this thing, and I'll just call this New Yorkers, or just New York households, I guess. New York households would be a good name. And then when we run it this time, we'll get this message saying you're about to create a new table. Is this okay? And you can say yes. And we have a new table. All right. So that's easy enough. Let's throw this query away and start a new one. Kids. We have kids in our database. Kids are born all the time. Kids become adults. That table will be refreshed often because people are going to, individuals are going to move in and out of there quite often. So this morning, I have this new table, an additional table called New Kids that just has some, basically, the same kind of information that's in the kids table, but where there are kids who were born in the last week. We've got some new data to put in here. Okay. Now, again, as always here, when I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows, only had 6 rows. You could type them in yourself, but pretend like that's 60 or 600 rows. This is when you got that sort of situation. This thing makes a lot more sense. All right. So, to add one table to another, that's called an append. Now, before you can do that, the fields that you're going to of additional information that you want to add to the original table, those fields have to have the same data type and have to have the same field size. So before I could properly append kids, or new kids, excuse me, to kids, I had to come in here and make sure that the data types matched what was in the kids table, and then I had to come down here and make sure the field size matched what was in the kids table, because if I didn't, when I tried to run it, it's going to complain about mismatched types and not allow me to run it. So I made sure that that was all set up correctly. That's actually the hard part of the process, really. Okay. So I got my two tables set up correctly, and I want to add new kids to kids. So to do that, we're going to query design. Start off with the table with new or additional information, so new kids. Okay. Then you tell it which fields in this table you want to add to the existing fields in the other table. In this case, I want to add all these fields, so I can take this shortcut, that little asterisk at the top of the field names here. That's just a wildcard that says all fields. Okay. So I want to take all the fields from new kids and add them to another table, and that's when I switch to append here. It says, well, what table do you want to add these to? And that would be the kids table. And so you can either type it in, or there's this drop-down list here to go from. And you're ready to go. And then you just run the thing. Again, you're about to append 6 rows. This is one of those times, again, when you want to spend a few seconds thinking about it, because once they're in that kids table, it's going to be hard to get them out. Especially if you had a lot of them here and you didn't, and there was like no real criteria, you'd have to, you could get yourself in the place where you put stuff in that you're not going to be able to get out. So it always makes sense to spend a few extra seconds thinking about it here. All right, so we'll just say yes, and it ran. Nothing spectacular happened, but there's 6 more records now in that kids table. Okay, so this is an easy way to add large amounts of data to existing tables. Okay, now, we noticed after we did that, though, we were so proud of ourselves, that this child driver's field is empty. Okay. Which means, in practice and in theory, that we don't know the status of those data values for those particular records. But we do know that, right? All these kids were born last week, or this week, right? Right? Yeah. There's no way possible for them to have a driver's license. Just, it can't be. So for our data set, our database to be as correct as possible, those should have been set to no before we added them in. Now we can add them. We can do that with an update query. We can go through and tell it to update certain records with new information. So I'll close this, and I'll just start a new query again. Probably the easiest thing to do. And we'll do one here. New kids. And now we'll switch to update query. And now we have another row down here in this bottom half of the query design. Update what field? We want to change the child driver field. And it says here, update it to what? So we'll just say N for no, because we know they can't have a driver's license. And we can just run this. And again, it's going to give you that standard warning message. Say, are you really sure you want to do this? Because there's no turning back. And we'll say yes here. And so we fixed that table. And then we decided, well, we should do the same for the kids table. So we could either hunt down those rows and change them individually, or we can just write a query to do it for us. So I'm going to remove that table, go to show table, pick kids this time. And this time, child driver. Again, I want to update this to no. But if I were to run it like this now, it's going to take all, 10,000 children and set that to no. Because we haven't sent it, we just said in this column, change it all to no. But we want to be more selective here. So you can also apply a criteria. Works just the same as before. It has to match the criteria. And if it matches, then it'll update that field. If it doesn't match, it'll just ignore it and go on to the next record. So here, anybody born in the last week would be back to the 19th of April. So we'd have to say for anybody greater than or equal to hashtag 04 slash, what did I say, 19 slash 2013 hashtag. So now we're updating selective records for that field, and we can just run it. Because I set it up wrong. This is why you want to be careful about this. It's about, so you're about ready to delete 20,000 records. So we'll say no here, thank you. And what I should have done is the criteria should have been over here. All right, under date of birth, cut, paste. That looks better. Run this. Oh, why did I put quotes around it? Access sometimes does mysterious things. Okay, now you're about to update 6 rows. That sounds a lot more reasonable because I know just a few minutes ago I added 6 rows, so now I'm probably on the right track, so I can just go say and say yes, and those 6 records are updated in the kids table. Okay. So the thing here, again, I want to point this out to you. Every time you run a query, you should pay attention to how many records it says it's going to change, because that's a good clue that you on the right track. Like here, I knew it couldn't have been 20,000 records needed to be changed, so I knew immediately I'd done something wrong, and I can go back and fix it. So, you know, the more you know about your data, the better off you are when you're running queries and stuff. So anyway, last kind of query. So they make, you know, somebody makes a decision and says, we don't want certain people in the database. We want to clean up the database. Well, like the kids one, right? If anybody was over 18 years old, they shouldn't be in the kids table anymore. Okay. And I don't think I have anybody in there. So let's just change that to anybody, any kid over 10, for this, just for the purposes of demo here this morning. Anyway, we want them out of the kids. Okay. Maybe we want 2 tables, one for kids and one for teens. Okay, that'd be a good one. We'll do kids and then teens. Put them in 2 separate tables. Okay. So to do that, we'll do this in a couple of steps. Obviously, we need the query design. Obviously, we need the kids table. Okay. So we need a copy of the kids that are 13 or older in a separate table. So, and we want that as a permanent table. So that says we need to make a make table. So we would, and again, we want all the information. So I'll just click that. But then we want some criteria applied. So we'll pick child date of birth for the next column over. And 13 years ago would be, oh, that works out really nice. April 26, 2000. Right? 13 years ago. Huh. Got lucky. So anybody born before that date should go into this new table. So we'd say less than hashtag 04/26/2013 hashtag. Now, this first one here, kid star, says everything, and then the next one over says child's date of birth. You can't have the same field in a table twice. So down here, you want to make sure that you uncheck that box. Why is that? Oh, because I forgot to put the. That didn't come through as a hashtag. There it goes. So make sure you uncheck that box there for child date of birth. I want to use it for selection purposes, but it doesn't have to show up in a new table. Okay. Huh? You're right. 2000. Yeah, 2000. It is early, right? Okay. Everybody happy now? All right. So here's what I like to do. I always like to run this once as a selection just to see what's happening, because I make mistakes, obviously. from time to time. So we'll just run this once. That looks pretty hunky-dory to me. Everything, yep, okay. So we can just come back. Well, actually, we can do it in here. And we can just change this to a make table, and then we can call this teens, like that. And then when we run this, okay. So now we've got teens off in their own table. And then all we have to do is get them out of the kids table because we don't want them in both places. So then we need another query, the deletion query. Okay. And conveniently, it keeps all the information we knew from down there before, which is what we want. Delete all fields from the kids table matching that criteria. Okay. And then we can run this guy like this. And then here's where you want to be real careful again, because you're about to delete 7,633 rows. Once they're out, there's, you'd have to, if that's not what you wanted, you'd have to go back and reconstruct the tables and start almost from scratch again. So you want to be careful about this. But in this case, since we've already made a backup copy of these, it's in the teens table. If this is not right, we still have our own undo that we can make happen. So we can just run this, yes. And they're out of there. So now we've got kids and teens in separate tables, and if we wanted to, we could go back and relate the teens table to the household table, just like we did kids and stuff like that. Okay? All right. So, questions about this stuff here? All right. So in the outbox, there should be a Word document called Student 3 in Lab Demo 3, Lab 3. And it'll have stuff for you to do. So all that practice one stuff, go ahead and work on that, and then we'll go on to something else.